Welcome everyone to today's event on business opportunities and collaborations between corporates and scientists entrepreneurs presented by SGInnovate. I am Ziying from SGInnovate, and if you are new to us, we are a government-owned organization in Singapore with the mission to build deep tech innovations from Singapore for the world. We invest in and help build deep tech startups in the fields of artificial intelligence, medtech, and quantum tech, just to name a few. We work with entrepreneurial scientists and clinicians to help bring their innovative research from lab to market, and we also develop tech talent and engage with a vibrant deep tech ecosystem. Today, we are focusing on a topic close to our hearts, and we are grateful to have industry leaders here to share their perspectives on the key challenges their industries are facing and the way they could work with scientists, entrepreneurs, and deep tech startups. Just some house rules. If you have any questions during the webinar, please post them in the Q&A box in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Without further ado, let me pass on the time to Heng Soon, SGInnovate's Head of Venture Building, who will be moderating the session. Heng Soon, please.
Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Somehow I lost my audio, but I'll get it fixed. But let me launch it just to confirm you guys still hear me.
Yes,
all right, good.
Can hear you.
Thanks, Zing, for the intro. My name is Heng Soon. I run the venture building group in SGInnovate, and basically we are the hands-on guys to help, entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, develop products and start new companies. So we have three gentlemen from three different corporates here this morning from Singapore, and I'll get to the introductions just a little bit later. To set the context for today, right, something very topical, right? We all know the situation the world is in right now, the current effects on people, on the economy, and in the longer term, there will be impact because there's been drop in investments, there's been interruption in how human capital is developing, be it interruption from work, interruption from school. Could be some form of change also in terms of global trade and supply chain linkages. So, and corporates, people as well as corporates, are trying to cope. And for corporates, I'm sure, they are looking at ways, seeking how they're going to cope, how they're going to recover. All right, get back to normal, and as they think about doing this, how they go to what kind of situation do they see or imagine? What's the world going to be like? What is the industry going to be like? And as they plan to do things about to do something about this, very importantly, back to today's topic, we would like to know how corporates think about innovation, think about deep tech, how they work with deep tech, from internal sources, from external sources, how they can collaborate. So, and that is actually today's topic. How corporates can leverage on technology, how they work with with internal as well as external innovation, and to bring about solutions needed by the markets, the world. So without further ado, I would like to call upon Jens, Peter, and Alberto to give short intros of themselves, and then we can come back to have a general kind of a overview discussion before each one. I would like to pose questions to each one to talk about things specific to their industries. Jens?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning here from my side as well. I'm Jens Drebes. I'm the president for Kühne Nagel. Asia Pacific organization is active in logistics. We provide our customers with end-to-end supply chain management solutions covering sea freight, air freight, trucking and warehousing, as well as another service offering we provide is to help our customers to transform their supply chains into value chains, and we're doing this through integrated logistics. I'm 23 years with the Kuehne+Nagel organization, always in Asia Pacific, and this is now the 5th location. I have been before working for the organization in Japan, where I started, in Australia. Then I moved to Bangkok. I was 8 years in China located, and now since 2016, I'm here in Singapore. And nice to meet with you all here through the Zoom hour that we have in front of us.
Peter?
Excellent, thanks, Heng Soon. Hey, everyone, my name is Peter Hawkes. I look after business development across the Asia Pacific region for Johnson & Johnson Medical Devices. So Johnson & Johnson Medical Devices really focus on developing and partnering with surgeons and developing products in the orthopedic sector, in the general surgery sector, and in the cardiology sector. And we've been in Asia-Pac for many, many years. My specific role is really focused on external partnerships. And what does that mean? You know, we're seeing a significant growth clearly in Asia-Pacific. And I'm really looking at partnering with companies that are really developing and capturing insights and turning those insights into services and products for the medical device industry in Asia for Asia. So it's been fantastic, this opportunity to work with SGInnovate and other partnerships within Singapore and around Asia Pacific in making this happen.
Alberto?
Hello, my name is Alberto Muñoz. I work for Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric is a French multinational company, and we basically look to decarbonize 4 main segments: buildings or cities, IT data centers, industry, and infrastructure. And we do that through increasing productivity and reduction in energy consumption, electrification, and enablement of renewables and decentralization of energy. And my role in Schneider is to lead the Schneider Ventures, the corporate venture arm of Schneider here in Southeast Asia. Our main objective is to disrupt ourselves, basically, and our industry. So we focus on disruptive innovation, and which is difficult to sometimes to do for corporates. And we do that by investing and partnering with existing startups, and we also incubate and launch new businesses. So looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just to latch on to what I had kind of painted, the overview I had painted just now, I would like to have each of you kind of give your views and your insights on how the current pandemic has impacted your industry area, and perhaps also the challenges and the opportunities that you see arising from this thing happening to the world. Anyone can start first.
I'll give it a go. So thanks, Heng Soon. So I mean, clearly COVID has had a significant impact on healthcare and also part of the solution. So clearly from a purely industry sectors, there are medical device companies that have certainly benefited in helping many patients out there. Certainly those in the personal protective equipment area are certainly benefiting from that, and certainly helping patients along with respiratory equipment and the like. So there's certain sectors of the medical device industry that are certainly contributing and helping towards this COVID pandemic. Certainly there are areas in medical devices that certainly have been hurting a little bit. Clearly the access to hospitals and elective surgeries in certain countries and certain parts of the world have slowed down or stopped for some time. And that has meant also access to clinicians. So a number of our companies support clinicians in the OR and in hospitals, and certainly that has been challenging in some parts. However, we are seeing a turnaround, and certainly particularly in Asia Pacific. We were impacted very early on in the year, and we're seeing in large parts within Asia, this recovery happened quickly, and the opening up of hospitals and elective surgeries. COVID has opened up a number of new opportunities to engage with physicians and patients, and like the general populations has accelerated its engagement with digital. Certainly the healthcare environment is not immune to that. We are finding creative ways to engage with our physicians over digital platforms. In fact, we had a online webinar the other day which talked about perspectives from the front line of fighting COVID-19. So a number of our healthcare professionals speak at that. And we had over 26,000 that were logged in to listen to that discussion from over 145 countries. So there are great opportunities that are opening up, and which will only benefit the industry into the future.
Yeah, I think we can. I picked up the point about the front line. We can come back to that a little bit later. Alberto or Jens, anyone take a go at this?
From Schneider. So, given the context of working on a confined, right, in the lockout in many different countries, so in terms of challenge, has been challenging for us to make sure we literally keep the lights on in very critical infrastructure at this time, like hospitals and data centers. And so we have doubled down a lot on that. And but I think for us, it's more opportunities than challenges, this current situation, because a lot of the work that we do is about digitization. To enable this decarbonization and increasing productivity across all these different industries. So naturally, we see now there is sort of like a strong burning platform across many industries to really literally move into digital, right? So I think this is accelerating the rollout of many of these digital tools that we are developing at the moment, and that we have already in our portfolio. I think also now I think people start realizing that there may be situations that can create sort of like a global crisis, you know, and I think people is now realizing also that maybe the climate change is the next thing, right, that we should look after. And since our mission and vision is to decarbonize the economy, so that's also very much aligned with our business. From a venture perspective, similarly, many of the topics that we are working on are very relevant for this context where we are looking into digitization and decarbonization of all these different industries. And so we have even doubled down in terms of activities that we do. But obviously now we are looking into how this new normal, right? So how that can shape different customer demands and requirements to make sure that we are able to address those. So overall, given obviously has been a challenging time for everyone, it's not ideal, but given the context, it's very the solution going ahead is very much in line to what we're doing as a business. So it is something that will reinforce our company in the long term.
Jens.
Yeah, for us, I would like to probably to picture it a little bit in different phases, right? It started in phase one when most of the world did not know what COVID-19 will be. And to remind everybody and go back to that is it just started just before the Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year in logistics is always a slowdown. So many people didn't feel it at that point of time. But actually, when COVID-19 locked down Wuhan and then the rest of China, actually there was a disruption on the supply side. And that was just on the supply side at that point of time that was never been seen before. So the China impact was very, very early. By now it has recovered. But then, of course, COVID-19 moved into Asia, Europe, and North America. So more to the consumption markets. And there, actually, we have seen then different verticals actually also impacted. The automotive industry, for example, very much impacted. We have seen there trade actually and trade volumes coming almost to a standstill at a certain point of time. Industrial verticals, while as Alberto and Peter already mentioned, the pharma industry actually had a different direction, and high tech, for example, as well went on. It's very strong. Then we had the lockdowns in many countries, which resulted in travel restrictions, and basically commercial flights came to a standstill. Important for the logistics industry, as the majority of air freight, and it's not small, the majority of air freight has been moving in the past on passenger planes, and that supply base has completely been gone. So what the result was that, particularly in the second quarter, all air freight that has been moved, essential or not essential, through charter flights. And we have seen that surge in charter flights a lot. As a result, that not only the demand side has reduced, but particularly also the supply side of air freight space, prices went up quite substantially, but also there was the need for charter flights in transporting PPE equipment, PPE and other equipment. And on the logistics side, on our side, on Kühne Nagel, actually there has been a very vast leap forward. Basically, we have the entire workforce now switching to digital ways and working in a matter of days and weeks. If you would have asked me in our organization, would that be possible within a short period of time? I would have said, probably not. How can this be? But we as Kühne Nagel moved about 40,000 people globally into work from home models within a very few days. And that could only have been possible with a superb IT technology platform and digital solutions. So my takeaway from that is the last 5 to 6 months is where we as Kühne Nagel performed relatively well, actually, is that 3 points. First is very transparent communication through Zoom calls, as we have started our Zoom connections already last year in November. Focus on being there for our customers. It sounds a very simple message, but it was really, really essential, actually, that somebody could call you and could connect to the service provider to move and to support businesses. And the most important, our people. The people element, when we talk about digitalization, remains to be extremely important for me. And it is very important, and is a good reminder that when you have focused and built on high-performing and loyal leadership teams, that makes a difference and made the difference, at least for us. Moving forward, I echo the same what Peter and Alberto mentioned already. COVID-19 is an opportunity. It's a catalyst for tech investments. And there, particularly e-solutions. Of course, we talk about e-commerce today differently. People experience it, but also in the B2B sections. And one thing that is very much to our heart and very important for us is sustainability. Technology and drive and sustainability, now the opportunity to make a difference. And why? Because many companies are already, of course, with their systems under stress. And stress is, of course, also opening up new changes, the way you're doing business. And people are probably today much more open to make changes than they were 6 months ago. So every crisis is also be an opportunity.
Good. Just before we dive into the specific industry-specific kind of ideas or points, just to pick up one point out of each of you, your response just now. Peter, I'm keen to know more about the change in the front line of healthcare, as you mentioned. What is the modus operandi going forward? How does technology, various forms of technology come into play on this front?
Yeah, so certainly, so if we can look at this question on 2 fronts, I think one is the connection of physicians and their like to their patients. So in many parts of the world, up until COVID, it was pretty standard, face-to-face, good patient kind of manners, and engagement with your patients would be one-to-one in-person conversation. Clearly with COVID, that has all changed. And you've had a number of physicians and doctors and healthcare professionals really had to adapt themselves to getting used to the idea of doing this, doing these types of things over video conferences. So the likes of telemedicine has certainly expanded and evolved. And where you had perhaps a industry and particularly customers like physicians and healthcare professionals versus some other sectors perhaps have been laggards in areas. I'd have to say there are certain parts of Asia which that is not the case. They've had to catch up really quickly. So those areas and those companies that have invested in engaging with their patients, which is not physically and within a room, are certainly benefiting from that. So from a telemedicine perspective. So that is one point. I think the second point is, and that is how industries such as Johnson & Johnson medical devices are engaging with their customers, which are the healthcare providers, and what does that look like? And I think this is a really important point, and going forward and how we do that, because up until now, we've played an important role supporting our surgeons and other healthcare professionals, ensuring not only the smooth running of a procedure, but also some efficiencies within the healthcare environment. And that is continuing to be restrictive in many parts of the world. So what does that mean? How do we engage with our physicians and surgeons going forward? So we've had to come up with creative ways about being there to support them, such as kind of webinars and the like, and using different chat functions and things like that to engage with our surgeons. And I think you'll see this evolve over time, not only from a support perspective, but from an efficiency and cost perspective as well going into the future.
Alberto, you talked about, because of this change in how people are going about in their lives and in their work and businesses also, you mentioned opportunities because of increased digitalization. So from Schneider's perspective, could you give a couple of examples of internal or maybe external innovation that that would highlight opportunities for the application of advanced technologies?
Yes. So basically, for example, if we catch a couple of segments, let's start with buildings, for example, right? So it has been a big impact, right, in the way that people work. So me personally, I'm working from home still, even though we still have we have some people in our office, but we have things. Basically, we have limitation on occupancy, right? So one of the technologies that we have in our building here in Singapore, where we have the building can host up to 1,200 employees. Right now, we have around 200. Yeah, and you can, when you enter in the lobby, you can see what is the occupancy level for every floor, for example, right? And because we have restriction in terms of how many people has it. So this is a specific use case, right, in terms of how smart building solutions can help you address, the COVID problem in terms of social distancing or occupancy levels, right? Similarly, in this building space, so we are looking into a lot of use cases, some related to enabling social distancing, right? But also when, for example, supporting customers to rationalize their real estate needs, right? So some customers are asking now, do I need more real estate or do I actually need less, right? Because they're not very clear yet how much space they're gonna need. If everyone is gonna go back to the office and we need to have distance between them, we may need more space. But if they're gonna be working from home, we may need less space. So we have actually we have a smart tools, smart buildings tools that helps to monitor that occupancy by area in the building and see, that maybe you have no real uses in some spaces, so you can change the configuration of certain spaces to enable the usage of the social distancing and so on and so forth, right? Similarly, we're looking to like contactless technology, right? So how you can just move around a building without literally having to touch anything, just maybe with your phone or with a wearable, right? So that's the kind of things that we're looking. Some of these technologies we already have as part of our current portfolio, but other ones we are actively looking and engaging startups to conduct partnerships or investments. And also, we are considering potentially do some incubation and launch some business in this space. Yeah. And similarly, when we're thinking about industry, so there is the component, you know, the industries are a bit more tricky because you still, in many of these industries, you need a workforce that they cannot work from home. They need to be there, right? So we have applications, but also we are looking to new technology to look into not only how to enable this social distancing between workers, but also how to increase the productivity, right? Just by you figuring out that a lot of people is stalling, and then you can go into the root cause analysis and identify maybe they're waiting for some spare parts or whatever, right? So we are looking into a lot of technologies, both current existent in Schneider, but also externally that can upgrade or bring a more compelling value proposition to our customers, to not only address the short-term COVID requirements, but also can bring additional value propositions to our customers, right, post-COVID. These are a couple of examples. Frankly, from all the kind of work that we do, there is an angle to it, right? Things like, for example, enabling remote operations, right? Remote maintenance, and so on and so forth. Then how you enable that through cybersecurity, right? So we can. There are many different topics that we're looking at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks. This was the next question I kind of latched on. I want to latch on to this. Everything's digital, going, digital. More things are going digital. So could you maybe spare 1-2 minutes to talk about cybersecurity, and is there anything that Schneider is doing on this front?
Yes. So we have a framework of all those solutions that we call EcoStructure, and there is a component that cut across all of them, which is cybersecurity. Because naturally, all our solutions are connected, and it goes from connected products at the floor, right, at the home, at the office, and control systems more like the BMS and the SCADA systems, but also apps and analytics at more at the cloud level. So for each one, all these different layers, so there are different layers of cybersecurity. On this regard, so we have, from a Schneider perspective, we have both hardware and software solutions to ensure the cybersecurity of all our systems, right? Now, given the context of the COVID, we are looking into how can some of the current systems that you need to, they are digital, but you operate at the edge, right? You operate on the shop floor or in the office. You can actually operate remotely, right? And obviously the concern is like, what if someone can log in and then mess around with my industry or my building, right? So then we are looking into that cybersecurity layer, right? Because it's not only about the moving, it's not only about the infrastructure of moving things that are at the edge to the cloud. It's about how we ensure that we provide that cybersecurity. So I think that's a bit of the angle that we're looking at the moment. Yeah, but obviously cybersecurity is something that is it cut across all our different line of business and products that we have.
Jens, you talked just now about the demand and the supply of freight and related services, being impacted, but let's kind of move to kind of a location-based kind of a topic. For example, warehouses, technologies within warehouses, in terms of the connection between warehouses, the use of robots and other automation technologies within warehouses. what do you see, how do you see things going forward? And is it in any way affected by the situation, the global situation that we are in now?
Yeah, I think when we look into Asia Pacific, then there's really in the big Asia Pacific market a lot of big differences. For example, here in Singapore, we as Kühne Nagel have made one of our largest investments outside of Europe, in fact out of Germany, in a couple of years ago when we started our Singapore logistics hub, 50,000 square meter facility where we have a state-of-the-art, best-in-class pharma facility as well, but also our innovation center actually located there. Very important for driving automation in warehouses across Asia Pacific. But we also know that in the rest of Asia, and that is the challenges that holding us back, there's a lot of warehouses, too many warehouses still today operated manually. What is holding back actually is majority is commercial aspects. A lot of times in these warehouses, when it comes to the commercial situation and commercial decision on how to run a warehouse, it is often believed that it's cheaper to run it manually than instead of investing into new solutions and technologies, which only goes over time. Of course, we like to see that we together with our customers invest into technologies and look at how digitalization can help to increase efficiencies, but as well as cost reduction in the supply chain operations. And they can. And we're doing this through the innovation center that we have built in Singapore. So that innovation center is not something like, maybe I always say, maybe only when a customer comes, switch on the light, we have a drone flying through and it looks good. And then the light goes off again for the next couple of weeks until the next customer may come in and wants to see it. It's every day is a light on, and we're doing a lot of automation processes there as well. But it's not only warehousing that actually can help. It's actually data availability and transparency together with integration of various systems. We are working in a very, very fragmented IT infrastructure in logistics. To have a 360-degree view of their supply chain is for many of our customers very difficult, but also very important. Just to give you a picture on how the constraint or the challenges is, when you basically move a container from A to Z, there's about 18 touch points that you have to manage. And 18 touch points means basically it can be 18 different. It's not as much, but it can be a lot. There's a lot of different players involved. And all these players working on different infrastructure and IT standards. And these standards actually to bring them together is a big challenge. Blockchain, for example, is a good way for moving forward. That has been talked a lot about in the last couple of years. Many companies have talked about it intensively. I had always a feeling in many discussions, it was more at the beginning academically than really with practical solutions and practical applications. And there we have to make a difference. But again, it is because of the lack of standards that are in the industry and the many players that you have to bring under one roof. An example on how you can be successful has been with Kühne Nagel, where our VGM portal, which stands for verified gross mass, and that is it's a term in logistics where every shipper has to report the weight of the cargo inside the container before it moves on any ship. So if you don't have declared this, you cannot get your container on the ship. And through these requirements, we have built through blockchain technology our VGM portal, how we call it. And it is a large-scale operational environment with up to 800,000 transactions per month that we operate through that. So there are good practical examples on how to move forward, but not enough, and more can be done in the future.
Jens, you brought up various technologies, and you also mentioned your innovation center. Could you tell us how this innovation center works, especially with external parties? Who are these external parties, and what kinds of collaborations, if any, can be struck?
First of all, I think it's very important on how to drive innovation centers within one organization. For me, very important. It's not the intention to have just an innovation center. We have one in Europe and we have one in Singapore, just to have it, as I said, to switch on the light. It is really strategically driven, and it's a message from the top that is very, very important. We have started our roadmap, and we are in the middle of it, our roadmap 2022 in 2018, and focusing on 3 dimensions: customer, technology, and people. The reason is to have all these 3 dimensions in one focus in the roadmap is to inspire our customers as well as our employees to go this transformational journey with us. And in terms of the dimension technology, we have summarized this in a concept, how we call e-touch. E-touch is allowing automated workflows with a focus on the ease of doing business with innovative application for our customers, for example, in the freight forwarding industry. Automation, as I mentioned it already, and we have to do a lot in logistics. And in principle, how we summarize this is, and where we want to do practical applications is working on a simple mantra. And then the mantra is think big, act small, fail fast, and learn rapidly. Because if you do not have any approach to that, you start with one application, it doesn't work, and of course you fail. And then normally in bigger corporations, there's a lot of people who say, you see, I told you it doesn't work, let's go back to the normality and work with others. And this innovation center is doing differently. So we are collaborating with, it's open collaboration. We have sandbox approaches. We work with universities together. We work with customers together. We work with other players in the logistics industry together in order to form also new standards. And we as a leading logistics provider feel committed to that we bring also every player that is related in the supply chain together and think differently in the future.
Peter, back to you. I'd like to cover 2 kind of subtopics, diagnostics as well as use of automation, robots, in medical technology. For diagnostics, some sharing from you perhaps on the emerging trends, COVID as well as longer term, and for automation / robotic assisted, for example, robotic assisted surgery. I believe that J&J has a portfolio in this segment, and again, how do you see this moving forward in the next 5-10 years?
Sure, thanks, Heng-Soon. So I think this is where these 2, diagnosis and robotics, we're seeing the impact of deep tech and what impact that's having on these 2 markets. So I think I'd argue that deep tech and artificial intelligence is somewhat at the core of the emergence within these spaces. So if we start with diagnostics, certainly deep tech has had a significant impact on the diagnostic market, and particularly in areas where perhaps the number of radiologists, the coverage isn't great. So perhaps certain areas within China and some of the larger countries where there's not as many radiologists, the ability for deep tech to advance the ability to identify perhaps things that the human eye cannot do, or at least speed up and make the diagnosis more efficient and rapidly, is having a significant impact on the diagnostic market. So I think certainly deep tech has a place to play in that. So certainly we're seeing the emergence of that happening in that area. In regards to robotics, it's an interesting factor. So robotics is on a journey. Certainly initially the robotics was doing very kind of standard types of procedures where they were helping surgeons in such as urology cases and the like. That is now beginning to expand into other cases, and we're seeing the robotics being used more and more so. But what we talk about in J&J is not robotics, but more digital surgery. And that's much a broader conversation in regards to that, which involves, again, deep tech in many parts of that. So if we talk about, for example, the emergence of advanced imaging within surgery. So this is enabling to provide the surgeon real-time feedback about what they're seeing and what they're not seeing. So whether that's the identification of certain vessels, the understanding of the tissue type and the like. So we're seeing more and more deep tech come into the robotics play to have much more than these simple operations, to create more of a kind of a digital surgery environment. And so we are partnering again with a number of startups and entrepreneurs through a number of areas of our business. So for example, within Asia Pacific, we have our J Labs arm, which is based in Shanghai, which is really an incubator for startups and entrepreneurs to be able to come and be a resident in this facility and be able to work with other startups and corporate like ourselves to really accelerate their program. So that is one avenue. The other avenue is our innovation center, Johnson & Johnson Innovation Center. While our central hub is based in Shanghai, we do have people in Singapore and various parts, Japan, Korea, Australia, India, that really is working with startups in this deep tech space and other areas, not only within medical devices, I should say, but also in pharmaceuticals and consumer. And then, of course, we have an equity arm, which is our Johnson & Johnson Development Corporation, which we can leverage as well for early investments in companies.
Thanks for mentioning the work with the startups. Quick question: what advice would you have for startups who are in robotic or what you call digital surgery? We see continuously quite a number of these startups coming to us, and usually the journey is a very long one. What advice have you got to give to this, in terms of what should they expect, what should they be prepared for?
I like Jens' kind of fail fast mentality. I think some of these early stage is to really do your homework around the unmet needs and what really is your technology differentiating itself from others. So I think that is one really important, and to really focus on really identifying, carving out that unmet need. For us, we're a global organization and we're all about scale. So I really look for companies that have the ability to scale outside their country, within other countries within the region, and to be honest, even globally as well. So I'm really focused also around how can we take this technology and scale it on a more rapid path. So I really look at those, and also how does your company compare to others out there? So as I mentioned, the diagnostic space, there are a number of companies in deep tech and AI really looking at this space, and often it can be hard to differentiate one startup from the other. What is that your differentiating factor, which is really important? So there are a couple of things that we look for.
Okay, I was just looking along the way some questions that have come up, and since everyone has talked about innovation, and including innovation from external sources such as from startups, one question that came up was when a startup approaches one of your companies, a big company, big corporate, what do you offer? What do you give them? Offer them funding, access to facilities, access to other things, what are there barriers that they have to overcome to get to some collaboration with your corporates? Anyone can have a go, or all three can have a go on this question.
Yeah, I'll share that a little bit. So I think you mentioned many of the things that we offer, right? So I think first of all, I think one of the first steps we always do when we find a startup that has some interesting technology or business model is to do quick pilots with them, right? And through that process, we provide feedback and coaching both on the technical and commercial solution, right? I think I second all the comments from Peter, by the way, in terms of what we look for startups, right? I think sometimes we find startups which are very technology focused, but they don't have very clear what are the use cases and what should be the way to monetize the technology, right? So we can provide a bit of guidance because we are very close to the customers, and we understand, you know, how to commercialize these products at a global scale. But also sometimes we find the opposite, right? So people have very smart ideas, but they're still developing the technology, or they have a technology, but there is things that can be improved, right? So that's the first step. I think once we see that there is a real opportunity and that the company could potentially scale, right? Again, as what Peter mentioned, at the very least at a regional, if not at a global level, then we can enter either on commercial partnerships or even on investments. Yeah, and commercial partnerships. So basically, we have a broad list of portfolio of products, and many of those are not by Schneider, right? We build the platform, and but we have a very rich ecosystem from startups to other large corporates that can lock in that platform, right, and to serve our customers. So this is something that obviously for a startup, we can bring that commercial partnership for them to very quickly scale up from a sales perspective. And then also we do investments when we see companies that they have a proven traction on revenue, and they have that shows that they have some market fit. Then we do investments of normally for Schneider we look into Series A to Series B, so we do sort of like $5 to $10 million investments on some of these startups, and quite often, so sometimes we actually start with some of these startups at a bit of an early stage as a commercial partnership, and then as our relationship become stronger and we see that it has traction, then we do investments as well. So, but we do all this kind of collaboration, and that's the value that we bring to them. For us also, there is a lot of value on working with the startups to first get a lot of fresh ideas and technologies, and bring all these solutions to our customers.
Maybe from you want to continue? You want to continue, or how do you want to?
Yeah, you take the same question as to what
because I think it's a very interesting question for both sides, right? For the startup and for corporations, because I personally believe that it is very good to connect with startups. That's what you need in an organization to go with fresh ideas. And there's two ways actually how we approach it. So first of all, what we can offer is an access to our network, an access to our organization for startups to find out what an organization, the industry as well really needs. It comes from a needs basis, and there we can offer connections, right? With the innovation center that we have here in Singapore and the digitalization hub, and we have people in the organization who are looking for connecting with startups every day and see whether the startups and the ideas that are created there are matching with the needs that we see, not particular for us, it's for our customers, actually what our customers want, and whether we can bring them into practical solutions. In terms of funding, we have 2 years ago, 3 years ago, formed a joint venture with Temasek. And together with Temasek, this joint venture is called ReefNot. We are looking into funding and investing into startups. This investment, this fund, this joint venture has been funded with $50 million actually to invest into interesting startups that providing our customers future technologies, and we want to make a difference. And we have done already 2 investments there. One is in artificial intelligence technologies in a company called Prowler, and one is in trade finance, where suppliers get paid faster and differently, and the company is called Previse. So it's typical, very good 2 examples on how startups and technologies that not directly related to the Kuehne-Nagel organization are interesting for us in the future and funding can be done through this joint venture with Temasek.
I think, hey, so I think I just add, I won't be long, I just add one more point is when I speak to startups and enterprises, often they're looking for things that some of the large corporates have, and these are kind of functional tasks. So for example, market access or regulatory. And I think where corporates can play a role in helping startups is providing some advice to navigate the regulatory pathway through some of the countries, and each country within Asia Pacific is different, right? So I think there's some key aspects that corporates, not only from a funding perspective and perhaps R&D perspective, that they can walk alongside some of these startups and businesses, but there's certainly some functional aspects from regulatory to quality to clinical trials and things that are very practical help, but also given they're doing it with numerous products each and every day, can walk alongside the startups in that aspect.
Yes, I saw a question kind of related to just what we have just been talking about. Out of this collaboration, various methods of collaborating, could anyone give some examples of the commercialization? How has it taken place? Did the startup sell into your corporate? Did your company buy over the startup, or something like that? Any information on that front for any one of you? Just examples.
For Schneider, so we have many investments on startups, and we never get a control stake. We never get a majority stake. So to that question, right? So since we look into a bit more like Series A to B, so we look into getting a minority stake and a seat on the board, right? And then create synergies between the two companies. From these companies that we have invested, so for example, there is one called it's a Singaporean company called KGS Buildings, which is basically leverage AI and to automate diagnostics and building analytics to improve the efficiency of buildings. And we naturally, this is something that it's very relevant for Schneider. So through this partnership and investment on KGS, which by the way we have been growing over time in terms of we have been keep investing on them. So I think 50% of the current revenue it comes from our channel, from leads that we generate on a daily basis from our work we have with different customers, right? Similarly, we have many other investments, right, on different companies, and what we do is always to bring all these investments are always strategic for us because we see these startups that fill a gap in terms of our current capabilities or solutions that we can bring to our customers, right? Then naturally, since we have that customer relationship and big distribution across markets, we can help those startups to scale up in terms of their sales, while we also benefit and our customers by bringing those solutions. Otherwise, we will have to develop ourselves, but at the end of the day, we cannot develop everything, right? So we work across so many industries and markets, and there are so many solutions. So we are better off just partnering and investing also in other companies and just work together to make the pie bigger and share it more with our customers. Yeah.
Any further points from Jens, Peter?
Yeah, just to add on that, what I said before, with ReefNot, our joint venture with Temasek, we made already 2 investments, minority investments, similar to what Alberto said, in order to drive these technologies, artificial intelligence as trade finance. But I also can tell, make it maybe interesting for startups who are listening right now, the joint venture is looking for more investments. So it's not that that's it and we run it now. There's more to come. So anything that is interesting in that respect and attracts actually funding can be done through ReefNot, our joint venture with Temasek. At the same time, we are collaborating as well with universities, which is always important to connect to in that phase as well. And startups are connected to universities as well. So my advice is always to stay connected there. For example, with NUS, we have signed a memorandum of understanding for developing digital twin technologies in warehousing operations. In this respect, we're looking always for new technologies as well. And then the third space is, yes, we have also creating own ideas. We have great ideas within our organization, and we launched this year 2 e-solutions platforms that are created and designed in Asia for the Asian markets. In terms, one is for sea freight, actually bookings, container bookings intra-Asia, which is a very transactional and specific market. And the second one is in Southeast Asia, and Singapore is always part of both actually these technologies. eTruck Now, which is an online booking system that connects customers with available trucking space. And these are technologies we want to continue driving forward. And while we are launching these products, more to come in the future as well.
And, yeah, so we either will take a minority equity investment or some sort of strategic partnership with companies. So one example was last year we partnered with a company, a robotic company in China called Tanavi Medical, and they're a China-owned, China-manufactured robotic company focused on the spine and trauma space, and we're looking to distribute that product and really help scale up that business with a co-promotion agreement there as well. And really, you know, part of that is really understanding, you know, we're at the beginning of the robotics kind of, we believe, industry. Currently, the robotics market within the US accounts for up to 50% of penetration in that market, but outside the US, it's less than 5%. So we believe there's a great opportunity within Asia Pacific to do that. But we also look to really partner with startups and entrepreneurs and build that funnel. So, you know, we certainly know of, you know, Biodesign Singapore, and also clearly we've got SGInnovate here as well. But we also work closely with MedTech Innovator and the Asia Pac startup competition and accelerator, where we really look to grow and help partner with entrepreneurs in the medical device space. And particularly we have a number of companies within the Southeast Asia region be part of that, and it's great to see just them kind of develop their ideas and working alongside corporates in that capacity as well.
All right, I'll pick one last question, and I guess its answer is coming from us, a simple one. Couple of people, attendees, asking to see how to get in touch. You know, they're inventors, they're researchers from labs and universities, to reach out to each one of you. Answer is easy. Come to SGInnovate first, and we'll be helpful on that front. Last thing, as a takeaway for all participants, all right, can I have each one of you kind of summarize a problem statement or a market opportunity that in your respective areas, and see if it strikes a chord with any of the participants, and if it triggers any kind of a desire to link up.
Okay, maybe I can start. Actually, to summarize what I have said about our industry is starting with our innovation mantra first. Again, important for startups to know is really think big. For us, it's act small, fail fast, and learn rapidly. And with this mantra that we have, that is starting from the top strategically, is that digitalization is increasingly pushed into supply chain, particularly in Asia, and offers a lot of opportunities. The question is how to inspire an organization for that, employees to go all the way along this journey. That is for us very important too, because not to forget that the logistics industry is and remains to be a people industry. So when we talk about digitalization, then there's a lot of people, and you need to learn that as well as a startup, that when you deal with in a corporation, there are a lot of people who think that if you talk about digitalization, that what happened to me as a human being? And we believe that, I believe that, of course, humans will be indispensable in the future as well. But their duties will be quite different and even substituted by intelligent machines, processes, or how we summarize it, as I mentioned in eTouch. So the company who finds the right balance between using the strengths of digitalization and human touch will be in the lead in the future. And that can only happen with a mindset change in a company, what we have done.
I think we lost him. Peter?
Yeah, sure. So when we, my advice to startups is when we look at a company, we ask ourselves 3 questions. Why this space? i.e. why that market? Why this company over other companies? And how do we create value? And I think that last question, particularly when it comes to digital and deep tech, is an important question. So if we look at our customers and what they're after, yes, clearly they're after looking at unmet needs and solving key problem statements. But also, not only there's a patient outcome, there is also the cost associated with that. So I think there are 2 areas that startups can think about, is the cost as well as the patient outcome. And finally, also when it comes to digital, is the monetization of these products. So certainly we see a lot of digital opportunities come through, but the question is, how do we monetize those? And I think that's certainly one question to consider. And in terms of whether it's a value add or it's a true solution. So that's probably, I'll end on that.
Alberto?
Yeah, if we're looking into a lot of different topics, but if you ask me one problem statement, I would say that artificial intelligence is a very powerful tool that can have multiple use cases across all industries to improve efficiency. But one challenge often is about accessing to data, or let's say accessing to high quality data to basically leverage the artificial intelligence. So for me, the question would be, how can we, is there opportunity to develop some sort of tool that can automate this data mining and cleaning of information? So as a platform, it's cyber secure and very cyber secure, right? That it can then enable different artificial intelligence technologies to tap into that platform and to conduct those analyses. I think that layer is also very important, because one of the barriers for adoptions we see quite often on the artificial intelligence, the tool may be very powerful, but then if the access to the data, or the data is not very good quality, or there is issues in terms of cyber security or access to data, so obviously quite often that becomes a big barrier to move from a pilot to a big rollout. So I think that's a good it will be a good solution to a good problem to crack, find a solution.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Before I hand it back to Ziying, one last thing from me for the participants who are interested to have a conversation, do reach out to SGInnovate. We are well connected here in Singapore in the ecosystem, and can be an effective matchmaker of sorts. So with that, I'll pass it back to Ziying.
Yes. Thank you, Alberto, Peter, and Heng Sun for the insightful panel discussion. It's unfortunate that we lost Jens right at the end, but great that he was there for the whole panel discussion. And thank you to our attendees for your time and your question. Unfortunately, we are unable to go through all the questions, but we hope that we were able to help you answer some of the queries that you have, and that you are now inspired to innovate and solve the problems. Do connect with us on our various social media channels, and keep an eye out for a post-event EDM with a link to the recording of the session. We'll check in with our speakers if they are keen to connect via LinkedIn, and we'll link it in the EDM. Welcome back, Jens.
Hello.
Hi, Jens. Welcome back.
Sorry, it was disconnected. So here back. I'm using my phone now.
That's great. Would you like to just continue with your last words before we close off?
How much did you hear what I said?
I think maybe the last 2 sentences or something like that. You're almost at the end of your point.
Yes.
Yeah. So my point was actually from the experience that we made with dealing with startups is, of course, when you approach and want to deal with a company like Kühne Nagel, then you need to also know how to function a Kühne Nagel organization, or how Kühne Nagel organization is functioning. And there, the human touch of digitalization for me is very important. And so what I said before is that humans are indispensable, but their duties and the way they work actually will be different, right? And in order to make that attractive, you need to know how people are reacting when you're doing in the innovation and digitalization approaches. So mindset change is very important. It has to come from the top, strategically very important, and decisions need to be also be led by examples when you approach it. And this is the way we approach it at Kühne Nagel.
Okay.
Thanks, Jens.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jens, for coming back on and sharing your last thoughts on this topic. Yes, so we'll be checking in with you guys to see if you'll be keen to connect with our attendees, because I bet a lot of them have been inspired and are now willing to innovate and perhaps find a solutions to the problems that you may be facing. Yeah, so we do hope to see everyone at our future events, and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a good day.
Yes.
All right. Bye. Bye.
Bye.